You're watching your portfolio bleed red. The news is screaming recession. Your neighbors are losing their jobs. But your bank account? It just received another dividend payment. Sounds like a dream, right? Today we're diving deep into the harsh reality of living off dividends when the economy collapses. And trust me, what I'm about to show you will change everything you thought you knew about passive income. Before we dive in, if you're serious about building wealth that can survive any market condition, hit that like button and subscribe. We break down complex financial strategies into real, actionable insights every single week. Quick legal note. Nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is purely educational content. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions. Let's start with the fantasy version everyone loves. Living off dividends means you own enough stocks that pay regular distributions to cover all your living expenses. No boss, no alarm clock, just quarterly or monthly payments hitting your account while you sip coffee on a beach. The math seems simple. Let's say you need $60,000 per year to live comfortably. With a 4% dividend yield, you'd need a portfolio worth $1.5 million. Sounds achievable with years of disciplined saving and investing, right? Thousands of people have built these portfolios during the good times. Blue-chip dividend aristocrats like Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, and Procter & Gamble have paid increasing dividends for decades. The strategy works beautifully when the economy is humming along. But then the storm clouds gather. Here's where reality punches the dividend dream right in the face. During recessions, three devastating things happen simultaneously to dividend investors. Problem number 1: dividend cuts. When companies face economic pressure, they protect their cash. During the 2008 financial crisis, over 800 companies in the S&P 1500 reduced or eliminated their dividends. We're talking about supposedly safe dividend payers. Banks that had paid dividends for over a century slashed them to zero overnight. In 2020, even briefly, we saw major companies like Boeing, Ford, and Delta suspend their dividends completely. That reliable income stream? It can vanish when you need it most. Let's use real numbers. General Electric, once a dividend darling, paid $0.96 per share annually in 2008. By 2018, after years of cuts, it paid just $0.48. Then in 2019, cut to 0.04. If you were living off GE dividends, your income didn't just decrease, it collapsed by 96%. Problem number 2: portfolio value destruction. While your dividends are being cut, your portfolio value is simultaneously cratering. During the 2008 crisis, the S&P 500 dropped 57% from peak to trough. In 2020, we saw a 34% drop in just weeks. This creates a psychological nightmare. You're watching your $1.5 million portfolio potentially become $800,000, while your dividend income is also dropping. The double whammy leaves you feeling like you're financially drowning. Problem number 3: the forced selling trap. Here's the killer scenario that destroys dividend portfolios. Your dividends get cut by 30 to 40%. You still need that $60,000 to live, so you're forced to sell shares to make up the difference. But you're selling at the worst possible time, when prices are severely depressed. Let's do the brutal math. Your portfolio drops to $900,000. Your dividends drop from $60,000 to $35,000 annually. You need an extra $25,000. You're forced to sell $25,000 worth of shares at depressed prices. That's roughly 2.8% of your remaining portfolio. Every year this continues. You're liquidating your principal during the worst possible market conditions. This is how retirement portfolios die. Now, for the good news. Some dividend investors not only survived recessions, they thrived. Here's how they did it. Strategy 1: the cash fortress. Successful dividend retirees keep 2 to 3 years of living expenses in cash or short-term bonds. This seems to contradict the whole live off dividends concept, but it's absolutely critical. When 2008 hit, investors with cash reserves didn't panic. They didn't sell at the bottom. They simply lived off their cash buffer while waiting for dividends and markets to recover. This cash cushion gives you time. Markets recovered their 2008 losses by 2013. If you had 5 years of expenses saved, you never had to sell a single depressed share. Strategy 2. Diversification on steroids. The investors who got crushed were often concentrated in high-yield sectors like financial stocks or energy. The survivors were diversified across sectors, geographies, and even asset classes. They owned dividend stocks across healthcare, consumer staples, utilities, technology, and industrials. They had international exposure to non-US dividend payers, some even mixed in REITs and preferred stocks. When one sector collapsed, others stayed resilient. Real example. During 2008, while financial sector dividends collapsed by over 60%, consumer staples dividends actually increased by 6%. Healthcare dividends stayed relatively stable. Diversification literally saved portfolios. This is counterintuitive, but crucial. The highest-yielding stocks are often the riskiest during recessions. A 7 to 8% yield often signals market distrust in the company's ability to maintain that dividend. Survivors focused on dividend aristocrats, companies that have increased dividends for 25-plus consecutive years. These companies have survived multiple recessions while maintaining and growing their payouts. Companies like Colgate-Palmolive, Walmart, and PepsiCo kept paying through 2008-2020 and every crisis in between. The trade-off? Lower yields of 2 to 3% instead of 5 to 7%, but a reliable 2.5% yield beats a 7% yield that gets cut to zero. The smartest players weren't maximizing current yield, they were maximizing dividend growth. Companies that consistently grow dividends tend to have strong fundamentals, manageable debt, and recession-resistant business models. Even if a dividend growth company temporarily freezes increases during a recession, they rarely cut the dividend entirely. And when recovery comes, those growing dividends quickly exceed what high-yield stocks were paying. Let's address the elephant in the room. Can you truly live off dividends during a recession? The honest answer: it depends on how you define live off dividends. The pure dividend dream is fragile. If your plan is to live solely off dividend payments with zero cash reserves and no flexibility in spending, a severe recession will likely destroy that plan. The math simply doesn't work when dividends are cut and you have zero cushion. The realistic dividend strategy works, but if you build a proper dividend portfolio with these elements, you absolutely can survive and thrive. A diversified portfolio of quality dividend growers. 2 to 3 years of expenses in cash reserves, flexibility to reduce spending by 20–30% if absolutely necessary during crisis years, potentially a small side income or part-time work as a backup. This isn't the pure passive income dream, but it's a realistic strategy that has worked through every modern recession. Let's look at actual historical data. Research from Hartford Funds shows that dividend-paying stocks have historically provided more stability during recessions and recovered faster. During the 2008 crisis, while the overall market fell 57%, high-quality dividend payers fell only about 40–45%. That's still painful, but significantly better. More importantly, dividend income from quality portfolios only declined about 12–15% on average, not the 40–50% cuts that concentrated portfolios experienced. The recovery matters too. Dividend income from quality portfolios recovered to pre-crisis levels within 3 to 4 years. Total portfolio values took 5 to 6 years. If you had that cash buffer, you survived intact. The worst-case scenario. Even in the absolute worst modern recession, 2008, a well-constructed dividend portfolio with proper cash reserves would have survived. You'd have needed to tap into cash reserves for 2 to 3 years, reduce spending somewhat, and stay patient. But you would have made it through without permanently damaging your portfolio. If you're serious about building a dividend portfolio that can survive recessions, here's your framework. Step 1. Calculate your real number. Don't just estimate. Track every dollar you spend for 6 months. Know your actual cost of living. Then add a 20% buffer for unexpected expenses. That's your real number. Step 2. Build the cash foundation. First, before you even think about living off dividends, accumulate 2 to 3 years of that number in high-yield savings or short-term bonds. This is non-negotiable. This cash is your recession insurance policy. Step 3. Construct a diversified portfolio. Aim for at least 25-30 individual dividend-paying stocks across multiple sectors, or use dividend-focused ETFs for instant diversification. Include international exposure of at least 20-30%. Consider mixing in some REITs and preferred stocks for additional diversification. Step 4. Focus on quality metrics. Screen for companies with payout ratios below 60% to ensure dividend safety. Look for consistent dividend growth history of at least 10 years. Prioritize strong balance sheets with manageable debt levels. Seek companies with recession-resistant business models. Step 5. Plan for flexibility. Identify which expenses you could reduce if necessary. Consider maintaining some skills that could generate emergency income. Build a plan for how you'd respond to various levels of dividend cuts. So can you really live off dividends during a recession? Yes, but only if you abandon the fantasy version and embrace the realistic strategy. You need quality over yield, diversification over concentration, cash reserves over pure dividend dependence, and flexibility over rigid planning. The dividend investors who failed during 2008 and 2020 made predictable mistakes, chasing yield, concentrating in risky sectors, having zero cash cushion, and panicking when markets crashed. The ones who succeeded? They had boring, diversified portfolios of quality companies, substantial cash reserves, and the discipline to stick to their plan when fear was everywhere. Building a recession-proof dividend portfolio isn't easy, and it's not as sexy as the passive income dream sold on social media. But it's real, it's achievable, and it works. If you found this breakdown valuable, smash that like button. It helps more people discover realistic financial strategies instead of dangerous fantasies. Subscribe for more no-nonsense breakdowns of real wealth-building strategies. Remember, this isn't financial advice. Do your own research, run your own numbers, and consult with qualified professionals before making any investment decisions. Now get out there and build something that can actually survive the next recession. Because trust me, another one is always coming.